What's happening, everybody? Thank you for being here at All Access Live with Kevin Rankin. Before we get started with my amazing guest, I want to talk to you about some business. Please go to the link below, go to youtube.com/@accesskevin and subscribe to this channel. You'll be notified about all upcoming episodes, and you can also become a member. Members get exclusive access to episodes that are private and special. So it's free. If you just want to subscribe, make sure you share and pass it on to your friends. Also, if you're interested in playing guitar and you want to get a great deal, go to 5starguitars.com. If you use the promo code of All Access Live and you check out, you'll save 15% off everything you see, and there's no sales tax in Oregon. So if you're outside this state and you're within the United States, make sure you order it from 5-Star Guitars, and hopefully you'll become an amazing rock star like my next guest, Mr. Jason Fellman. Thank you, sir, for being here. I appreciate it.
Hey man, good to see you. And by the way, I should say I buy my guitars from 5-Star. I'm playing right now one of my bands. I play the Taylor T5Z that they recommended to me, and it's been fantastic. So yeah, I'm not a paid endorsement here. I love those guys, man. It's one of my favorite shops in the universe.
If they stop in and they say hi to Joff Metz and make sure that they know that Jason Fellman sent them, I'm sure that'll give them an even better deal. Man, well, I like that you're representing FlannelFest, so maybe we can just off the cuff. We talked about this. You've got an amazing festival coming up this weekend in Moses Lake, Washington. So why don't you tell me a little bit about that? And I'm going to bring up the poster so we can talk about that while you're doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so I'm primarily in the tribute band business as a promoter and as a festival producer, and so our next entry into that is our year 4 of the 90s FlannelFest in Moses Lake. So it's a 90s tribute festival. And as you can see in the poster, we've got tributes to Sublime, Alice in Chains, Alanis Morissette, Nirvana, Foo Fighters, REM, Cranberries, no doubt. So it's a 2-day deal out there in Moses Lake, Washington, with camping and RVs. And it's exactly what it sounds like. It's just they're 15-minute changeover. So it's just like band, and nothing but a good time.
So this is the 4th year of FlannelFest. You've honed your chops in the tribute festival scene. You've done Harefest for how many years now?
So Harefest, which is our flagship event that produces the FlannelFest and several other festivals, we just had our 13th year this summer. So we're going into year 14, and we missed 2 years for COVID. So we actually started 16 years ago. 2010 was the first year.
That's crazy. And we've seen some pretty remarkable things as Harefest grew. It became, it started off in a sort of a backyard backlot party, turned into a multi-day, multi-stage festival where you had people all over the world flying in and having weddings and getting engaged and all this crazy stuff. Right? It's become a huge deal.
Yeah, Harefest is, it kind of has taken on a life of its own. It has its own culture. Like you mentioned, it's a 3-day event over the summer. There are over 3,000 people who spend the night at Harefest each year. So it's a big we always say there are a lot of monikers ranging from the Coachella of tribute bands to the mother of all tribute festivals to summer camp for adults. So it can be all of those things.
And so since you worked out all the bugs and made sure that was completely successful, started 90s FlannelFest knowing that when it first started off, you had sort of a pigeonhole, or actually more of a finite sort of target on the tributes that you had before. You expanded this to just be the grunge era, right, for FlannelFest. So
yeah, I mean, Harefest, of course, now I guess coincidentally, because the years go by, maybe 4 years ago, you could look at Harefest and there wasn't a single 90s band in the when we started FlannelFest, it was all pretty much 70s and 80s at Harefest. And so we started FlannelFest specifically to capture this demographic. Now, I will say at Harefest, we started sprinkling in a little bit. We had the Foo Fighters last year and Alice in Chains. So we have we're dipping our toe in it at Harefest, but Harefest is still overwhelmingly 70s and 80s. FlannelFest is decidedly 90s, and obviously, grunge is a big part of the theming and stuff, but there aren't that many grunge bands in existence. So,
sure, yeah.
It really is all things 90s. So that's why we've got Tool over to No Doubt, over to REM, to Sublime. And then, of course, we've got some stalwarts in there like, the Jar of Flies, doing the Alice in Chains, and Nirvana guys are, our automatic and Stone Temple Pilots, that sort of thing.
Right. So Harefest has sort of evolved into, you really specialize in providing great camping packages. How's that going on for FlannelFest? Do you have the same sort of thing going on at the fairground?
Yeah, I mean, part of the reason why are doing our overnight festivals in fairgrounds is because they have the infrastructure for overnight. So, um, we learned a lot from Harefest. In our first two venues, we had to sort of build camping infrastructure from scratch, and that had its own inherent challenges, and it was just sort of bursting at the seams. So when we moved that one to the Clackamas County Fairgrounds, obviously we inherited a lot of camping infrastructure. And Moses Lake in Washington is even more important to have that because it's a little farther away from the larger cities. For people who are like in the Wenatchee area or Tri-Cities or Spokane or even Boise, it's pretty close.
Mhm.
But if you're coming from Seattle, it's, almost 3 hours and maybe, 4.5 to 5 hours from Portland. So if you're going to make that trek, obviously it's nice to have a place to spend the night. And it's also, it's more of an immersive experience when you spend the night. So there's a whole culture that comes along with these events. And so you start to get to a place where you look forward to seeing the same people every year. It's like, oh, cool. It's it's like summer camp, you see your summer camp friends once a year, and it's, we see our Harefest fans once a year, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, I noticed that in the culture for bands is similar. The behind the scenes and backstage, you see all these bands collaborate. And I know at the end of Harefest, there's a massive sort of jam at the end where everybody sort of breaks bread and has drinks, and
Yep.
and it's summer camp for adults in the patron side, but for bands too. It's really cool because sometimes those bands might not see each other all year long until you get to festival time, right?
That's a really good point. We've sort of, and again, it's just like the label after another, but it's like the tribute band conclave. You know what I
Right.
mean? But in the reality of being a tribute band is that most of your opportunities are going to come in the summer,
Mhm.
and so it's very hard for those of us who are in the tribute world to get to see each other's bands play. So half the fun of these things, besides the fact that, and you know this because you perform with the real bands, right? And it's much harder for the real bands to go out into the audience and just walk amongst the people without getting
Right.
totally handed. But in the tribute world, you don't have that dynamic. So it's like, like I always like to say, like Tim Tug, who does Ozzy, right?
Yeah. Right.
He'll roll out right into the middle of the field and take pictures with people and stuff. And so it's kind of part of the community vibe is the being able to kind of mingle with the tribute band musicians and kind of get to know one another.
Yeah. I know that your staff and the people that have helped the Jfell community really get this thing, sort of spread even wider, has grown. There's as much of a family element to that as I've ever seen. I know, like Cheryl Bland has really taken on a primary role in a lot of this stuff, and Keith
Amazing.
Parkhurst and
Yep.
Clint Shoup. I mean, a lot of the guys that you've had on board. I'd love to, if you could maybe just touch on a few of these people that have helped really build this up.
Yeah, I mean, I think probably I think one of the first people I ended up working with was Dan Bozick of Bozick
Right.
Digital Media. He was a prominent DJ on multiple stations on iHeartRadio. When more of the radio heyday, but towards the end of his tenure was the digital. Believe the digital program manager. He was running all the websites and all that kind of stuff, and obviously was one of the early social media gurus. So when he left iHeart, we started working together, and it's been tight working ever since. And he really, not only does he understand social media, but he also knows the music. His years as a
Right.
DJ really gives. I mean, oftentimes when I'm doing, if I'm booking a lineup, I'll go to him and say, "Hey, what do you think about this combination?" Right? Because he has that programming mind and experience, and so it's really helpful in that capacity. Cheryl Bland started out she was a sixth grade school teacher at
Right.
the time. She's retired from that now. To doing merch for our Journey Tribute Stone and Love, to running merchandise for our festivals, to now she's the assistant general manager of Harefest LLC. And so she runs everything from street team, merchandise, a lot of operational functions, dealing with the artists at, sometimes on the logistical level. And so she has a really large purview across our festivals. And we have, multiple festivals, and we'll probably touch on another one in a sec. But in addition to Harefest and the 90s FlannelFest, we also have our first all ages festival we launched over the summer in Salem called the Capital City Retrofest. And then we have a new one coming up that we just announced for Seattle which is our first festival in Seattle, the Seattle Retrofest in January, which will be our first indoor festival that we're doing at the Crocodile Complex, which is exciting because we've always wanted to do something in Seattle, and part of our challenge over the summer is that we're so busy, and the bands are so busy that it's really hard to squeeze anything more out of the summer. So the folks from the Crocodile actually reached out, maybe half a year or so ago, and kind of introduced us to what they have, their venue up there. And we went up there and I was like, wow, man, I didn't realize this, but the Crocodile, since they moved to their current location, it's like 3 venues in one. Right. So they got the main Crocodile room, they got Madame Lou's, and they've got Hereafter. And so it's kind of a neat opportunity to be able to create a multi-stage environment like we have at some of our other festivals, but all indoors. We can do it in January. The bands aren't as busy then. Right. The fans don't have tons of choices. The national acts haven't really started touring yet. And so the timing is, and the venue's got availability. And so it's called a venue takeover, where we're just literally taking all 3 rooms for both days and doing 16 bands plus a few others to be announced. So we're really excited about that. And they've been a fantastic partner. I have to kind of pinch myself a little bit. I'm like, man, are we actually doing something at the Crocodile? This is a legendary venue.
It is for sure. I mean, the original was such a home of most of those, Seattle bands that just took off. And the sound and production is amazing. Yeah. We can touch on this a little bit. First of all, please let me give props to you for the nod to the Seattle Supersonics in this poster, by the way.
So that was Bozic. That was all Bozic. He hit me with the concept. I was like, yes. He even did another one. He's got another one for like the Kraken. But like, let's go in Seattle Supersonics was the way to go.
I love it.
Yeah. And actually, you can't really tell in this resolution, but the backdrop of the poster, when you see it, is actually it's actually a photo from one of the old '90s concerts at the original Crocodile.
Really? Okay. Yeah. Right on. And I'm imagining that when you buy a ticket for this, rather than paying for a ticket for each room, you just get across the board a blanket.
Yeah, exactly. And there's only 2 kinds of tickets. You're either buying a single day or a 2-day.
Okay.
And once you're there, and so we're doing the programming such, and we've started laying this out at the website, which is SeattleRetrofest.com.
Okay.
And it's everything kind of staggered. So there are some overlapping programming, not literally like all 100% at the same time with the same breaks, but it's set up so like maybe a 70s band starts in one room, and then a 90s band might start like 15 or 30 minutes later in a different room that sort of partially overlaps.
Okay.
And then we also have the Hereafter is a smaller room where they often do comedy programs. It's almost like a little 150 seat movie theater in a way.
Yeah.
So we're using that for the sing-along room. So we're going to do acoustic duos and trios. So we'll do like a 70s sing-along set, an 80s sing-along set, and a 90s. So we haven't announced the bands that are going to be in there yet, but that's the plan for the 3rd room.
I don't want to give away too much, but are there some of these bands that you see on the poster that are doing full production also playing in some of the sing-alongs? So they have like a reduced sort of
set? I honestly don't know, because just full disclosure, I haven't booked them yet. So
okay.
Yeah. Right so I gotta. It's one of those sort of coincidentally, I'm going to be out at FlannelFest this weekend, and during some of my downtime, I'm going to be sending out offers to the bands for the Capital City Retrofest, and I'll be reaching out to the duos and the trios that we're targeting for the Hereafter room at Retrofest. So like we'll be at one festival working on the lineups for the other ones.
Right on, man. That's killer. Yeah. I noticed that, and we've talked about this before, in some of the different areas, there are tribute bands to the same original band in different communities, right? So are you stuck sometimes where you've got to make a decision? Maybe in Seattle, one of those tributes might do better in that sort of environment because they might have a better draw than a local band in Portland.
Yeah, that's a great question, and it's absolutely the reality. I mean, I work with there are multiple cases where I work with more than one tribute to the same artist. So, for example, and they're all really good too. So it's like, So in Seattle, for example, we're doing Head Over Feet, Alanis Morissette, right? Amazing, right?
Yeah.
But then we also in Portland, we've got Sarah Moon and her band Infatuation Junkie, which is also equally fantastic. And so, we might see them be featured more in some of the programming we're doing closer to home. And I mean, it's not an absolute thing, But certainly for the first year of the Seattle Retrofest, one of the things we learned from Harefest is Harefest started with pretty much primarily local bands, too. And it's kind of, for our first time out, we really wanted to stick with Seattle bands because we want to establish a culture that's local there.
Sure.
There's only 1,100 tickets for the entire Seattle Retrofest. It will sell out.
Yeah.
And so, a big part of that is, hoping to maybe, if you look at the different bands that are playing, most tribute scenes in Seattle and Portland included, you'll have like sort of, pockets of musicians who play in multiple bands. Right. And so in putting together this lineup for the Seattle one, some of it was like looking at sort of like, well, Arnie Bailey's got his band, so we'll make sure we got Third Stage, and the No Quarter guys have kind of their scene, and then the Jar of Flies guys, and the Outshine guys have theirs, and the Hysteria guys. So it's like you kind of have these like little, not little, they're big, but these sort of groups of musicians who have multiple bands, and so we want to kind of tap into each one of those and try to bring people together to kind of mirror that sense of community that we've been able to develop here down in the Portland area, up in Seattle, which is, clearly right for it. And everybody's just so cool. There's really great energy around that concept.
I love it. We know because we've both worked together in these kinds of things, in these environments. What starts out as being maybe competitive between tributes in different areas too, has really, I feel like, become there's so much camaraderie. There's so much community, and a lot of the bands that I see on this Retrofest had come down from Harefest in the past.
Mm-hmm.
Bands like Hysteria and Dr. Crew, right? The Seattle guys, and getting to know the guys. They're all such cool people, incredibly professional musicians too. Yeah. But then they are just as excited about seeing the other bands in the Portland community. So there's like a handshake where everybody wants to help each other out, which is surprising.
And I will say too that with each passing year, I would say that it had become less and less competitive.
Yeah.
Which is cool. I'm not entirely sure what to attribute that to. Other than, I think we noticed something, I think more when we came out of COVID. Once everyone lost the ability, at least in this part of the country, to play shows for a year or so, I think everyone sort of gained a new perspective on, what it means to be able to get out and play music, and, maybe more of a win-win attitude amongst everybody. And to the point where it's really actually common for two tribute bands to like, oh, hey, we want to take this gig. Our drummer's not available. They'll call the tribute band from the other market and have their drummer sub or something.
That's so cool. So yeah.
Even to the point now where it's like, they almost like the fact that there are multiple versions of some of these bands can allow each one to take more opportunities because they can kind of grab subs from one another. So I think, operating, I mean, I think this is just a good life philosophy, not just with tribute bands.
For sure.
I think if you sort of have this abundance mindset, as opposed to the scarcity mindset, you tend to, in general, I mean, this is one of my I don't want to go down the political path, but, just as part of my worldview is that you can generally look at things in one of two ways. You're either looking for a win-win situation or you're looking for a win-lose. Right. And
we're going to go to the poker analogy too, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think the win-win approach is better because it's not adversarial. You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course.
And, a band can't be everywhere at once.
Yeah. When you see bands working together and giving each other a leg up, ultimately it really is win-win. Everybody wins. The fans win because they get what they want to see. And there are opportunities for both bands, later on down the road too. I mean, working with you, people that don't know Jason Fellman might not realize that you really are a phenomenal businessman. I mean, you understand markets. And I think this whole thing started, for me, there were tribute bands around, but I remember when you put together Stone in Love. And the very first gig that I remember hearing about, other than a little birthday party for Mike Johnson.
Oh, yeah, that was awesome.
It was amazing. I was there at the Lotus. That's right. But when you planned the Aladdin Theater, and I remember you booking this during January when a lot of people were heading down to the NAMM show in Anaheim. And so a lot of musicians were going down. And I remember people talking to me saying, are you kidding me? The Aladdin Theater, that place holds what, 600-700 people? There's no way a tribute band to Journey is going to, make a showing there. And then I remember seeing YouTube clips while we were at the NAMM show of you just rocking that place. The place was packed. You had killer lights. You brought in amazing production, and the bar was set. That was the point.
And we sold it out. Yeah, I mean that was the
Yeah.
thing. That was our fifth show in our existence.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Was we went from playing 5 songs at the Thirsty Lion at the end of a Breakfast Club, right? Our 80s cover band.
Yeah.
5 songs on a lark to 5 songs to 5 shows later with that Stone and Love band selling out the Aladdin, and that was. And then I got approached, shortly thereafter by the guys from Appetite for Deception. I've actually got it behind me on my wall. You can kind of see they gave me a little photo, and that was the genesis of it. Was just I had never really set out to do any of this, to be honest.
Right.
The reason I ended up being a promoter and a booker was because I was trying to find somebody who could do it for us, and I didn't have any luck. That doesn't mean that they weren't out there. I just wasn't connected with them. So. I thought, well, maybe I could, leverage some of my past marketing experience in my previous business to see if I could promote, these tribute band concerts. And so when Appetite for Deception, which for my money is probably the best tribute band I've ever, they have retired,
right.
But for my money, I mean, there are other bands that you could probably put in the same category, but there's never been a better rock tribute band than Appetite for Deception that I've seen personally.
Right.
Never a better one. And so they were playing, they were playing small shows to, these 3.5-hour shows at a place called the Back Alley for $45 a head.
Right.
And so they reached out, and it was really funny because I remember talking to those guys, and they were like, I think we're probably better than you are, Jason. And why is this happening? Right. And of course I agreed. Yeah. So, but anyway, so what we ended up walking away from that conversation with is that, well, hey, this would be cool. I thought if I could promote these guys' show, it would be, it's hard to promote at the time anyway. It was hard to be the promoter of a show that I was playing in, because to be a promoter then I had to do a lot more because I just didn't know what I was doing.
Sure.
There was a lot more time. So I was exhausted by show day. But I thought, well, what a great learning experience it would be if I could work on this Appetite show with a killer product too. Right. And so we established a relationship, and, came up with a plan, and then their show came at the Aladdin, and that one sold out.
Yeah.
And so at that one, we learned that a couple of things. One, when we looked around the audience, we noticed that there was, I don't know what, arbitrarily a 25 to 30% overlap with the audience we had at our Journey show. And so that's when I sort of thinking about audiences like a Venn diagram, with all the overlapping circles. And then, as you know, because you were part of the original project, when the next Aladdin show was Steel Horse, the Bon Jovi tribute, and it was interesting because part of the reason why there was that made so much sense is because Bon Jovi is really the intersection between Journey and Guns N' Roses, right? Right. So, and that sort of, was the, part of the genesis behind this idea of developing community. And the other one was that Davin, who's, was the guy that was really, a lot of the great ideas that maybe I put forward actually came from him. I was just more like the face of it. And one of the greatest ideas he ever had, which was our first marketing strategy, which was to introduce our fans to one another. You know what I mean? Because, you would watch at a show and, everybody's waiting in line to the merch and to meet the band and all that. I'm like, well, all those people are just standing there. If you could introduce them to one another, what a great way to help build a community around the scene and around the band. So we constantly tried to introduce fans to one another. And I think that mentality paid dividends. For sure. Especially as more and more bands came on, because every time sort of everybody joined the community. And so, yeah, that was kind of, that was sort of some of the early thinking behind what got us here.
I'm glad you mentioned Davin, and this is, it's bittersweet, right? For you, I'm sure that people that have seen Harefest, that have seen, a lot of the Jfell productions have seen Stone in Love, your Journey tribute. That was the formation of this whole empire.
Yes. Yeah.
And you guys are they're about to make a sunset sail.
Yeah. Yeah. Our final show. In fact, that's on my list today. We haven't announced the venue yet, but our final show, we have one more show. It's going to be December 27th in Portland. Wow. So it's after 15 years, it's our final show. But man, you know what? We had a great, this year has been fantastic. We played, we sold out the Oregon Zoo. We were the first band to sell out the Oregon Zoo since before COVID.
Amazing. I saw pictures. It was unreal.
Yeah. Oh, it's just been great. And so it's been nice to take a little bit of a victory lap. And And it is bittersweet because I still enjoy playing in the band, but at the same time, it is satisfying to go out with a sense of completion about the whole thing.
Yeah.
And I will tell you that as a booker, it like solves a big, like when I'm looking at like Harefest is a great example where there are 24 bands, but only 10 of them are playing on the main stage.
Right.
So, I mean, another way to look at this is it's freeing up a main stage slot for another band.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
And so that's that, or same thing. Like, one of the businesses I own is I own half of Sterling Talent. We're the largest independent booking agency in Oregon. And it's the same thing. It's like all those gigs that were going to Stone and Love each summer can now go to another band that is just as deserving, but just didn't get the shot because we either took the slot or, when you do a summer concert series, for example, we book for like the city of Lake Oswego, let's say there are 10 shows. Well, maybe 2 of those are going to be tribute bands.
Sure.
Well, so it just opens another door. So this is just a little bit of circle of life. So it's cool, man. I'm glad we get to kind of go out on a strong note. It's very, very satisfying.
Go out on top. Who's going to take the reins for a Journey tribute in the area?
Well, first of all, I'm going to answer that question a little bit differently. I think that the band that's inheriting the mantle of the top draw is Taken by the Sky, the Fleetwood Mac tribute. I mean, that piece of it, they're sort of the new big dog. I mean, there are lots of other bands that are, who are at that level, but I think if we're looking at just pure draw, they're probably going to, they're the ones who are picking up the torch there. Right. I've had the good fortune of already, even being in a Journey tribute, I also booked the Infinity Project.
Okay.
Up in Seattle, and those guys are great.
Yeah.
And so I intend to keep working with them. And I mean, I don't know. It's going to be with Harefest. I don't know what I'm going to do. It's I haven't been able to book another Guns N' Roses tribute yet. You know what I mean? It's just like still feels too soon.
I wondered about that. Yeah, right. They're family.
So, but I tend to be like I try not to be rigid about my view on the future either.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like I try to keep an open mind. It's not an ego thing for me. Like
Sure.
I said, I mean, I've been pitching the Infinity Project for gigs, even being in a Journey tribute. So I'm like as we talk about the win-win, I can be excited about somebody else being successful doing the same thing. I'm into it, right?
That's that.
So, I know you'll be seeing more of those guys around here. 'Cause I think that, in the Northwest, they're really, making a strong showing and probably going to make some moves in the years ahead.
Right on. I know that they also they share the sort of the Bon Jovi space as well.
Bon
Jovi.
Yeah. Well, and it's the same thing. So I book Bad Medicine out of Canada.
Okay.
But there's also room for non-Jovi. Canadians can't be here all the time, and
right.
I mean all that, right? And also too, the cool thing with non-Jovi and Infinity Project, because it's the same musicians, they can double bill too. So that, and a lot of bands do that, but their singer has the vocal strength to do both shows in one night. So that gives them a nice sort of feather in their cap that creates a nice value proposition for them.
You mentioned Canada, so you've done a lot of work with Murray McVeigh, right? And you've got some Canadians coming down to the U.S., and now you're doing some stuff up. You've got.
Dude, so it's really amazing, right? So I mean, this is like if you think that like social media is listening, how we joke about how like the Sirius listening or whatever. It's like, so this was like I think after Harefest 3, right? Somebody commented on one of our posts like, hey, where are the female fronted acts?
Right.
Fair point. We hadn't had one in 3 years, right? So my mind immediately, so I started thinking, okay, what would be like the ultimate female fronted rock act, right? I'm like, boom, Heart, Ann Wilson, like it's just iconic, right?
Yep.
And so I like got online to start searching for a Heart tribute, and in that moment, a video of Barracuda. Murray, that he manages up in Canada, Merman Productions, like was just in my feed staring at me. I'm like, are you kidding me? I am not a religious guy. I'm not that spiritual or nothing, but this was like cosmic, man.
Yeah.
And so anyway, I reached out to him.
And really good.
Oh, they're amazing.
It's one thing to just have a Heart tribute that fell in your lap, but it happens to be that Donna really is Ann Wilson, early days.
I mean, when we have that conversation about Appetite for Deception, those guys are in that conversation too.
Right,
I mean, it's just like they're that good. But from the lead vocals, actually Sarah Moon, who does the I'll ask one more set down here, is actually the Nancy Wilson.
And
And
does it.
that was a whole other thing. Like watching her learn how to do all the guitar parts
Yeah.
for that gig.
Yep. She kills
I mean,
it. It's
amazing, right?
amazing.
It just goes to show the level of musicianship and dedication that people put into this. But yeah, so it was really funny. Murray and I tell this story about how I'm like, I reach out to him. He sends me a quote. I'm like, yeah, dude, we're in. Let's do it, right? And he just figured I was full of shit,
Yeah.
right? Because he was like, I just hit him cold. And I'm like, let's do it, right? But then I sent him the contract later that day. And we were done. It's like, huh, okay. And so Murray up there, he has a very similar kind of business to what I do down here. He does up in Canada, and we joke around. We call it the Canadian invasion because that guy just has a nose for talent like nobody's business. He sent us to Eagle Eyes, Bad Moon Riders, Night of Bowie, Bad Medicine. I mean, I'm sure I'm forgetting somebody, but there's something in the water up there that grows these like incredible tribute bands because they are amazing.
Danny Dean's old Aerosmith tribute.
Danny Dean, Aerosmith rocks, and of course Danny's the David Lee Roth for Best of Both Worlds, which is another one of my. That's a tribute band fever dream for me. Like I always wanted to have a Van Halen tribute that had both singers, right?
Right. It wins.
And Best of Both Worlds does it. Yes.
Guys, if you're watching this and you have not seen the Van Halen tributes, right? So most people have the argument about the David Lee Roth era or the Sammy Hagar era, and they debate about which is better. You get literally the best of both worlds in that band, and they're so dedicated to perfecting that thing.
And they switch. So the show's crazy because they're like every 2 or 3 songs they just switch.
Yeah.
And it also means that between the two singers, they can do these like crazy long shows because two singers, twice the stamina. And when you look at the Van Halen catalog across both eras, the number of like hits and well-known songs is like staggering.
It's crazy.
Yeah, staggering.
What's a tribute? What is an artist that needs to be showcased in tributes that you'd like to have that you haven't found yet?
Run DMC.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, it's really, I say Run DMC and Madonna are the two.
Yeah.
There are very few that haven't been done well already that I would say that would like really kick ass. We have this great Beastie Boys tribute, Grand Royale, that we work with. And,
they're so good.
I love that I get to pair them with the Red Hot Chili Peppers, who are they're the number one nationally touring Red Hot Chili Peppers tribute. They're amazing, and we've brought them here to the Northwest multiple times. We have them coming again in December, and don't be surprised to see them this summer.
Nice.
And so they pair well with the Beastie Boys tribute. But man, can you imagine a Beastie Boys Run DMC show?
Oh yeah, for sure.
And so Run DMC is a big one. Christy Bradley, who is a phenomenal singer in Radical Revolution, my '80s band, and also in Red Light Romeo, our 70s band. She would make a great Madonna because she can dance and she has the voice and everything. So I have the problem is I have to put it together, and it's like finding the time to do it. But she'd be perfect because she's got the voice, the look, and she can dance.
That's a great idea. Yeah, I could see that.
She'd be great. Yeah.
You mentioned earlier on building this sort of this army of amazing staff behind you, and I think about how much you've had to delegate and how much you were doing early on by yourself or with just a couple of people, and you really did have probably the world's biggest babysitting job on the planet. So and I know that I'm guilty in having been the recipient of some good parenting, so I appreciate that. But it seems like it's gotten easier, right?
Well, I think, I mean, honestly, like some of that's just, as the market's matured, best practices tend to prevail. But I think part of it too is that like is a little bit of learning, certainly on my end, which is that I think my mentality has shifted over the years from control to influence. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, there's a whole Darth Vader thing where Princess Leia is like, oh, the more you squeeze, the more it slips through your fingers. But I'm like, that's there's really something to that. I think I was trying too hard to control what everybody was doing rather than just think about myself more as like a resource, supporting them. You know what I mean? Giving them the tools or the information, guidance, but not with such a heavy hand. So I think a big reason why it's gotten easier is that it's probably because I'm probably being a lot. There's a little more informed approach rather than trying to like lock everything down. Just try to take a little more zen and realize that people inherently want to do the right thing. They're capable of doing the right thing. And most of the time it's just, they just hadn't considered it because they hadn't done it.
Right.
And so I think that's one of the areas of growth there. It's not, I mean, we still have things, like, hey, don't make your own Facebook event. We have our Facebook.
Right.
It's like, again, most of the time when somebody does something that you kind of wish they hadn't, it's still usually because it's done with the best of intentions.
Sure.
So, if a band oversteps because they're just eager to promote, and it's
Yeah.
like, I'm not going to come down on somebody because they were so excited that they jumped the gun on the announce. I'm like, no, they just didn't realize that it's supposed to be a coordinated announce. We have to do it all at once. You know what I mean? So,
sure. Yeah.
Getting upset about it, I can see it as a strength of the band. I'm like, oh, well, this band's like, they're gung ho, and so I'm, they just need me to tell them that this is how we do it. And
yeah, is there a handbook to the Jfell way for the tributes to sort of say
no,
step 8? No,
but I will say that I'm not sure how to say this without coming off weird, but I don't have a bucket list, right? There's no unchecked box for me.
Okay.
I mean, we just dropped off our 18-year-old daughter at college for her freshman year, so I'm like that,
Amazing.
So beyond that, there was like no. Nothing I'm doing right now is towards something that I'm trying to get to. It's just a direction.
Yeah.
And so, the one thing that I think I probably still want to do before I leave this earth is to publish what I've learned. And so I do have a document that I've been maintaining for over 20 years. Every time I have something that I think would be interesting for people to share with people about what I've learned, for those who might be interested, I'm documenting all of that. So I've got a pretty lengthy Google Doc. And so I do think that, sometime over the next few years, if I can, get get everything under control here, I still would like to do that. I think that would be fun. Even if nobody buys it, it's sort of like making my album. You know what I mean? It's like, well,
sure.
I just want to do it because it's fun to do. And, you can say you've done it and all that. But that is probably one of the few things that I haven't done. Other than visit Scandinavia that I want to do.
I'm with you. That's the top of my bucket list too. Been everywhere. Haven't been to Scandinavia. I want to go.
Yeah, same. Yeah, well, you've really been all over the place. Well, but I've done a lot of European travel and whatnot, and it's like that. And I've never been to Thailand, so that would be cool too. But definitely, Scandinavia, and we'll get there.
Yeah, for sure. You can come visit me in my place in Thailand. I'm like, our dear friend Joe Ebner's I think he still has his place down there too, right? So
I don't know.
Okay.
I know he's got a boat here locally.
Yes, he does. We tried to do a podcast from there, and the internet connection was not quite solid enough to do it. But I was thinking about a lot of the discussion we've had about tributes. But you're really putting some energy into some original bands as well in the area. I know you've got a cool show coming up October 17th at Headliners.
Yeah, the Loyal Order, which is, it's guys I met at Jeff Buhner's band and his original work. And, I met these guys through the tribute scene, but yeah, we're doing an album release over there with those guys. And I've had the pleasure of more recently getting to work with Eddie Martinez, the legendary guitar player, doing shows over there. And guys like Curtis Salgado, and that's just been, and we, the other thing is cool is that, one of the things about tribute bands, I mean, even this weekend, we've got Taken by the Sky Fleetwood Mac tribute playing at the Headliners Club. The opening band is Camp Crush.
Wow.
Right. So it's sort of it's a synth and drums duo.
Cool.
Right. With 80s sensibilities, even though it's new music, stylistically, it's got some 80s vibes that I know people who like Fleetwood Mac are going to be into. And so, I've done, our agency books original bands from time to time. We have a Melissa Manchester show coming up. I did Starship and Naked Eyes, who you introduced me to.
Right.
We booked Pink Martini. We just had Dionne Warwick last year. And our festival, we were actually one of a country festival that we used to do through Harefest. Live Nation put us out of business, but we sold out our last year, and we were like the first festival to have Zach Bryan as a headliner. Of course, now it does back-to-back nights at the Motor Center.
Huge.
We've had Cody Johnson as a headliner, Morgan Wade, Parker McCollum. So, but the main reason why I don't do much with the larger original bands is because it's I don't like the industry dynamic.
Sure.
You know what I mean? I mean, the reality of it is if I'm going to pay a couple $100,000 to a band, I don't want to feel like I'm working for them.
Sure. Yeah.
It's not right.
Right.
And the agents aren't cool. And so it's just like, you know what? I'm over it.
Yeah.
And honestly, dude, it's all coming home to roost now.
Yeah.
Right? All these festivals are going out of business. Right.
That's
I'm
right.
like, agent guy, This is what happens when you jack up the fucking price.
That's right, man.
We all go
Yeah,
out of business. So, or you go party with Live Nation, fine. All the independents go out of business.
that's true.
Now you're going to get Coachella terms.
Right. Yeah.
I don't feel sorry for any of them. I hate to say
No, you should. Well, the bands you were just talking about, so Loyal Order, Met's Ryan Collins on that show. I know that they've got a whole assemblage of regional rockers playing that night as well. Kind of an after.
Yeah, it's going to be cool, man. And at the end of the night, they're going to do some British Invasion stuff all together. And I love that because, that show has a certain energy around it that you don't get with tribute bands. I mean, tribute bands have their own cool energy, but it is neat to see that, musicians either, parlaying some of their audience that they've gotten in the tribute community or vice versa, right? Yep. As the case sometimes is. And it's also too, like, everybody's sort of celebrating the artistry, and also too, like, it's also really important to understand that, one of the biggest things that, I live in Trollville, right? So it's like, I welcome it, right? But it's like all these guys, you'll be like, hey, why don't you guys write your own stuff? And blah, 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 blah. It's like, well, no, you know what? Almost all these people, they do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like there's a sea of original artists amongst these tribute bands. It doesn't mean that they aren't into it. I mean, I work with an ABBA tribute that has some, really skilled jazz players. So it's just like, you just don't know.
You handle the trolls really well, and it's been fun to watch actually on social media because there's a catch-22, right? I mean, you don't ever want to engage with these people because there's no win, and that there's a lot of ignorance around it. The people
there is a win, right? This is where you're going with this, right?
Well, I know where your win is with there, which is really fun. Beyond just feeling better about pointing a target on trolls, but yeah, it does help because the marketing behind it gets people engaged, right?
Well, yeah. So I mean, yeah. So here's the thing that people, I think, don't. There's this old saying in public relations, which is that no press is bad press.
Yeah.
And so that applies probably in the most germane way to social media because of how these algorithms work. So first of all, if somebody comments on your post, even if it's negative, it helps you. Yeah. Because when a post when a post becomes more popular, there's more engagement. Facebook organically shows it to more people, right?
Right.
The second thing is it invites a response, right? But the third thing is that it gives me an opportunity to create something funny about it, Sure. I got no qualms about it, right? One can say, well, hey, you're sharing their name out to everybody. I'm like, you know what? Once you put your public comment out on a post with something that I think is stupid, I own you.
Love it.
You know what I mean?
I love
it. I am untrollable. There is nothing you can put on a post that's going to be a problem for me.
That's it.
You want it to be horrible? Fine, I'll use that. I learned this a long time ago because there was a prominent newspaper locally that I will not mention because they're very good to us now. But I would literally run ads and post to say, this is the festival that blah, 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 blah doesn't want you to know about.
Nice.
So I'm like, you're either going to include my festival in the summer guide or I'm going to advertise that you don't want us to be in the summer guide. Either way, you're going to help me.
Hell
you just pick how you want to do it.
Hell yes.
Yeah.
I love it. Most people probably already know this, but if you didn't know, there are a couple links down below. I added the Seattle Retrofest Fest.com because I'm guessing that you can actually get tickets at that for your January event.
Yeah, so the pre-sale starts tomorrow, and we've made since it's our first year, it's a public code. The code is Harefest, all caps, so you can unlock tickets tomorrow. Of course, I'm always telling people you want to jump on that because the venue's only 1,100 cap. We're gonna have 20 bands. And we only have 300 2-day passes. Everything else is single-day passes. That festival will sell out. The FlannelFest is this weekend.
Yeah, it is.
Right, in Moses Lake, and that's 90sflannelfest.com. And so there's still tickets available. And actually, the 10-pin hotel in Moses Lake, which is a really cool bowling-themed hotel, it just released some rooms. So, because one of the things that's hard is all the hotels in town fill up, but the 10-pin actually has it if people want to roll up to Moses Lake. So,
well, people can get tickets for that, and at least a link to the FlannelFest probably through Jfell.com.
Yeah, exactly. If you go to Jfell.com, you'll hit everything you need.
Excellent.
I mean, that's always a good jumping off point for all this stuff. And it's gonna be a lot of fun.
Well, I'm excited. For a couple of things. I won't be able to make FlannelFest, but I'm really looking forward to seeing the Seattle Retrofest, and hopefully, I think you're probably going to have an announcement about that last date, your December 27th.
Yeah, hopefully within the next 2 weeks we'll have that, and hopefully too we'll get to connect at the. I think we're both planning on going to the Loyal Order album release with Met's Ryan Collins there. I want to say it's October 17th.
October 17th at Headliners. I'll be playing.
Yeah. Oh, are you playing?
I'm gonna get my butt kicked. A little Dio track and an Iron Maiden track. Yep.
Killer. Oh, well, gotta be there. Yeah, but
Yeah.
I want to come check that out. I mean, first of all, I'm excited to hear the new material, right? I've gotten to hear a little
Huge.
bit of it. Very strong work.
Yeah.
Both really great bands, great songwriting and performances. The musicianship is literally world class. I mean,
Yeah.
there are guys in these bands who are playing, international bands. And on top of that, the hang will be great because all these folks that we're kind of gotten to know over the years gathering together to celebrate the achievement of this album and the original music that's being produced is very exciting.
That's the next big thing out of Portland, I think. The Loyal Order,
I
definitely.
love it. I
Yeah.
love it.
Well, Jason Fellman, hey man, have a fantastic time this weekend.
Thanks, brother, man. I appreciate you having me on.
The FlannelFest will be amazing, and congratulations on a 15-year run with Stone and Love. I miss you, brother. I miss you.
Likewise, man. I'm looking forward to seeing you soon.
You too. All right, guys, take care. Don't forget to subscribe, youtube.com/adaccesskevin, and go back and dig through the archives. There's some really great videos of some of the bands he's talked about. So go to accesskevin.com. Everything's there. I'll talk to you soon.